I had a full head of hair when I started. No, that's a joke.
So we started in 2002, and we were approached by AFSP in 2005.
Yeah.
So three years, and then they assisted like that 2005, I guess.
So the Louisville Walk actually started in 2002 as a memorial 5K, put together by a group of friends and family members who had lost their friend Brian to suicide.
Well, initially, we wanted, again, it was all about Brian. So none of us fortunately, had been touched by suicide at that point. And Chad said we were pretty young. I mean, he was just in his 20s. I think I was 32. So we were all about Brian, because we just couldn't really get our heads around this. Because to know Brian, I mean, he was the president of Trinity, the president at Bellarmine. He never met a stranger. You would meet Brian and you would think no one's really this nice.
So it was a 5K in his memory, and
so many people rallied around this event, and I think that's true today too. But I mean, everyone from Paul's Fruit Market to Kroger, who was delivering water, to Krispy Kreme, who would bring donuts. I mean, we had an entire T-shirt, I meant to bring it today, full of sponsors that we were able to attain in 3 months.
Yeah, less than that.
And we attribute a lot of that to Brian, and we attribute a lot of it to just how vast the community is, and just how many people out there are touched by this.
This is a really great way to remember and celebrate the life of my daughter, who was 19 when she took her life. And so I told the people, the boys and the girls, as I called them then, because they were college students, to be sure and let me know the next year when the walk came up.
It was like that everywhere.
We needed people, we wanted police officers just for safety to block off, and I had a good friend named Kenny Livesay, and a woman that worked with him, her husband was a police officer, reached out to him, and he and 3 buddies were like done, and they didn't want any money, and one of them came up to me and said that he'd lost someone. It was, again, just, so when AFSP got involved, the scope just became so much huger, which was great, because we were in over our heads from the very beginning, and it was growing. So the first year we did under 200 people and $12,000, but by the third year, we were making 40 grand and hundreds of people. And again, we were trying to make it professional and trying to celebrate Brian, but we were in over our heads. So that's why Chad was so relieved when Sam made that call. We're like, yes, because it was the natural evolution of it. And it's been beautiful because of them getting involved.
I remember when Sam Huff called me vividly and said, Chad, AFSP wants to step in and take over this. And he said it kind of timidly, like, I don't know how Chad's going to respond. And I remember saying, yes, okay, yes, because that was a good thing, right? This means it's gotten bigger.
And Out of the Darkness walks started to come into existence in 2005 with the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. They wanted to have a way to raise funds and to raise awareness. So they created these events. And when they found out about the event in Louisville, they asked how they could be involved, because the funds from previous years had been donated to AFSP. So Out of the Darkness walks got involved, and the original creators were just really excited to see that their grief and the way that they chose to honor their friend was turning into really a community movement.
So I convinced one of my friends to come with me and showed up and actually walked away like, oh, that was an amazing experience. So when they sent an email out about getting involved, I responded, and here I am. So it became the Louisville Out of the Darkness Community Walk. From there, it's just grown exponentially every year. We had 7,000 people last year. We raised $220,000. And I think if you had asked those people back in 2002 if the walk would still be going this strong and having grown this big 18 years later, they wouldn't have been able to believe the impact that they had. I think that was the coolest thing about it, was to find a place that I can talk about my dad, I can celebrate my dad, and even though we're here because of how he died, we're celebrating his life and how he lived it.
There's support groups, there are counselors, there's a lot of psychiatrists, psychologists, and social workers that you can go to for help. There are a lot of grief support groups. There's a survivor suicide support group.
And you guys are doing an amazing job. I mean, I was blown away when I went 2 years ago just by it was like Chad said, it was such an amazing place to just feel how you wanted to feel. The all-inclusive thing was very present because there was a band just killing it. It was awesome. People celebrating, and then you'd see people off to the side.
That blew my mind because you always hear, if a person's going to attempt suicide or die by suicide, then there's nothing you can do about it. We hear that a lot. And until I joined AFSP, I thought that too.
There's other
and
people.
to piggyback that, one thing that the walk does help people come away with is you have options, right? Someone may feel like they've run out of options when they've gotten to that point, and the walk helps show you that you do have options.
I think people, after being with other survivors and support groups, I think people just need to do something special for their loved one to make it. I mean, obviously it's personal, but to just, again, I keep saying the word honor, but it is what it is. You're honoring your family member. You're bringing their picture. You're saying, hey, this is my dad. This is my son. This is my aunt. And then I think it is that people crave to be with each other that have experienced the same thing, and they want to be where they feel comfortable sharing and showing those emotions. And I think that's the one thing the walk does. It's a safe place to be, to share those emotions, to cry, to be happy and have a little fun, to get overwhelmed, all those things, that it's okay to be whatever it is that you are at that time. So, and I think people want to be in a place with other people like that.
I think it's a strength in numbers mindset, these kind of walks. We mentioned the word taboo. We mentioned that there's not the type of support that we'd like to see from legislation. And so I think when people can come together for one common reason, they see the strength in numbers and they feel it, and they may take with them, it's okay that I've had these thoughts or these attempts. I'm not broken.
There's people, that there's help, that there are resources. Everything that is taught is backed by research. I realize that there's so much we can do.
The sadness, that's not going away. But the stigma is, so we can talk about it and we can say, how can we beat this? How can we help people? Spencer's mom, he just recently lost their son. I told her, it's not, it wasn't that you didn't love enough. And she knew that. She knew it was, it wasn't something she did or didn't do that caused that. And that was good, because she's now bravely talking about it and wants to help other people. We talk about Gage Donahue, who has had an incredible loss of her daughter, and she's changed the world.
I want people to realize how many people are involved in the suicide prevention community in Louisville and in Kentucky, and just how much history there is for this walk. Starting in 2002, starting before Out of the Darkness even existed, before AFSP chapters even existed, this walk was in place and was really a beacon in our community. So seeing it shift into a community Out of the Darkness walk, seeing it then grow into a statewide chapter that has 10 walks every year between community and campus walks, seeing a board of directors form, seeing hundreds of volunteers really in action every year, working towards the same goal, seeing thousands of walkers every year walking in the same direction towards a day when no one will die by suicide. I think it's really cool to see that when you ask every person where they'd like to see the walk go, all of them say that they want to see a day when the walk doesn't have to happen the way it does. It doesn't have to be there for new loss survivors. It would just be a place to celebrate all the people who lived.